Hello, Keith Rucker here at VintageMachinery.org. Guys, today we are back to working over here on the big monster cane mill, the big Golden's vertical mill or horizontal mill here. And today, what I want to try to work on is we need to work on getting these bearing blocks all finished up and ready. We had previously poured the Babbitt bearings on these. These are for the bottom rollers. There's two bearings on each side. There's also these plates that cover up the front. And there's an adjustment screw that goes in here that actually tightens these up. So basically you just run it in through a nut and tighten them up. The challenge for the day, or the project for the day, I guess you could say, is that we need to make the nuts that go on the inside of this. They're big square nuts that actually are captured up inside of this casting. Pull this off and you can see there's a big square recess in here. And that's where a big square nut goes up into, and then again a screw that will go through it, a bolt that will go through it, a set screw that basically just puts tension on these rollers to kind of hold them in place where you can tighten them up and loosen them. Now this is a pretty big set screw, 1.25" threads on it, or 1.25" shaft on it. And the nut is also a big one, and this is not a standard size nut. It's not something you can just go to a McMaster car or someplace and order, so we're gonna have to make them. I've got some square stock. We're gonna be making the big nuts as well as the set screws out of some square stock as well. And that is today's project, to be able to get this thing. And I think once we get this done, we can start putting this mill together and be wrapping it up, I'm hoping. I'm trying to think. I can't think of anything else that has to be done other than just little minor things as far as the assembly goes. So let's get in here and get this thing knocked out. All right, let's take a little closer look here at what we got to deal with. This is the plate that goes up on there, and you can see the little recessed square hole in here. And basically that is designed for a piece of 2-inch square stock to fit down in, and that's what we're going to be making our nuts out of. And the thread that goes up in here is 1.25", and we'll be drilling and tapping an 1.25" hole in here. I'll have to figure out what the thread count is for that. And then we got to make our square head bolts, again 1.25". These are going to be 6 inches long, and I got some 1.25" square stock here. We'll be cutting those down and just single point threading those over on the lathe to make 4 set screws to tighten things up with. So that's kind of what we're working with today. So let's get over to the lathe and start working on this. All right, I'm over at the lathe and we're getting ready to turn these nuts, these big nuts down. And one thing I'll mention is that because I'm turning square stock, I'm using a 4-jaw chuck because I need to chuck on all 4 sides of this. It won't fit into a 3-jaw chuck. Now this chuck that I've got though is different than a typical 4-jaw chuck. Most 4-jaw chucks are independent chucks, so each jaw is independent, and you can, fine adjust, tune something. This has actually got a scroll in it where all of them move in and out like a 3-jaw chuck does. And it's really handy for working with square stock such as we have right here. So in this case I can basically just chuck it up just like I do in a 3-jaw chuck, but it's got 4 jaws to fit on the 4 sides of the square. I bought this chuck a long time ago when I was doing a bunch of square head bolts and nuts that I had to make for a special job, and it has come in handy all kinds of times for jobs just like this. So we're going to come in here, I'm going to face this off, we're going to drill the hole in there for the tapped hole. The hole size I think is 1 1/8" for the threads that we're going to be cutting. Probably go and cut it off over on the bandsaw just because it's going to be quicker and easier because of the size than trying to part it on with these big square flats coming around, having that interrupted cut on a parting tool. And we'll have to do that 4 times and then flip them over. We'll face the back side of them once we cut them, and we'll also probably tap them over in the vise. It's such a big thread, it's hard to swing a big long handled tap handle on the lathe because it comes around and hits the ways, so I'll do it in the vise instead. All right, let's get these knocked out. So we'll start by facing. That just gets the saw cut off. cleaned up all the way around. It did. We're going to change cutters. Putting in a tool with a 60-degree threading tool, actually, it's got a little angle. I like to kind of just break these corners on a nut just so you don't have that really sharp corner sticking out. So we'll just kind of go in basically the width of that cutter, and it just kind of softens that up a little bit. I like to actually go all the way into where it's blended all the way, got a circle around the inside, but I don't have a big enough face. Let's see if I got a cutter that's got a little bit larger face on it. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Instead of doing it this way, I'm going to move my compound over to 30 degrees, which will basically give me that angle, and we're going to cut it in there using the compound. So give me a chance to move that around. That's going to make that a little bit nicer looking, I think. All right, so what I've got now is same cutter. When I move the main handle in and out, that will let me go straight across the face, but I've also got this set to a 30-degree angle where I can come across here and cut that little angle in there. So, all right, let's cut across this. I just want to basically keep cutting this until I get that all the way down to where I have a circle cut all the way across that. I need one more little pass and I'll probably have it. Let's check it out. Out all the way nice. It just makes a really nice transition. You see that on most nuts that are out there. Just looks a lot better. So, all right, let's go ahead and drill our hole, and we'll cut this one off. All right, I'm gonna start by just putting a center in here, or just a little starting spot. We're basically using this as a spot and drill, just to get a little starting dimple there. Start with a 3/8 inch drill through there just to get a starter hole going, and we'll drill that down past the depth of the first nut. And I got an 1 1/8 drill bit. Got my lathe slowed down to drill a larger diameter here. We're at 205 RPMs. And we're just going to drill this out. I was just looking to see if my parting tool is not even deep enough to cut that out, so we're going to have to take it over to the bandsaw to cut it off. So let me go do that. I'm going to pull this out, we'll go cut it off, and then we'll basically just continue on making some more of these until we get them all made. All right, I've got my blanks cut out now. I need to face the back side of them. So to do this, I'm going to take just a piece of tool steel and drop back there behind that jaw just to have something flat to run those up against. That should kind of get them put in there kind of square, hopefully. And we can now just face the bottom of these nice and square to everything else. All right, I'll just come in here, touch off. We'll just face that right out. Now on the bottom, I don't really want to put as much of a chamfer on there as I did the top, but I do want to put a little bit in there just to break that corner, just to soften it up a little bit. But that's all we're going to do is just hit it just a little bit like that. And that one is done. We'll do the other ones, other three, and we can go tap these out. All right, let's try to tap some of these. I'm going to start by putting a generous amount of anchor lube down inside these to lubricate as we're tapping. Got an 1.25 inches, was this 7, I think? Yeah, 1.25 inches, 7 threads per inch tap. And my big Greenfield number 8 tapper inch. And let's see if we can do this. Try to get that more or less straight. Try being the key word there. That's some heavy duty threads. All right, I'm going to try a different tap. This tap, that's taking a lot more pressure than I think it should, even for such a big thread. And I do have a couple more of these taps over there. Let me see if I got one that's a little bit sharper. It is cutting a big chunk there. There's no doubt about it. Here's a Bindex Bestley cutting tools. Still in the box. Looks like it's been used before, but not heavily. So let's give this one a try. We'll kind of get it screwed down in there. See if it cuts any better. All right. What a difference. Just going to a different tap. That's cutting like a dream. And I think we're through. Make sure we got all those threads cut. There we go. One down, 3 more to go. I'll get those done off camera. This tap here is getting it done. I think that other tap's is destined to go in the garbage. All right, I think we got our nuts done. That'll drop right down in there, be captured in place. And now we just need to make our bolts to go in them. So I have over here, again, some 1.25 inch square stock, and we're going to make some 6-inch long bolts with square head on them to fit into these nuts. So I'm going to go cut me some 6-inch long pieces, and we'll head over to the lathe and start working on getting those cut out. And we're going to start by, again, putting our stock in here. I think I want to do all of my heads, and then the tops I'm going to face these off and just break the edges on them, and then I go ahead and do all those. I'm going to flip them over. We'll go ahead, face the bottom, put a center in them, and then we'll turn them and thread them. I think it's just going to be easier to kind of do it in one step at a time. So that's what we're going to do. Let me get my tool. Fire up the lathe. face that off square. Use my tool here to break that edge again. I think we can do it with this one. That's close enough. That's as much as I can get, but that'll be fine. And I'm going to do all 4 of them just like that. All right, I got all my tops done. Now I'm going to do my bottoms. So again, we're going to face these off, and I'm going to put a center drill in there to support, for center support. So let's do these. That's the bottom faced. And we'll put our center in there. Go ahead and do that to all 4 of them. Same thing. And I got all of my bottoms faced and center drilled. So now what I'm going to do is come in here. We're going to grip this by the top. We're going to bring our support in, our center on the end, live center. All right, we're going to touch off here on the bottom. I'm going to zero out my digital readout. We're going to go in 6 inches. That right there. We'll make a mark where I'm going to turn down to. And now I need to turn this to 1 1/4 inches. Have my live center locked down. We do now. Make an interrupted cut, so it's a pretty rough cut. Go up to our line, stop, and I want to get a rough measurement out there across that diameter just so I can put it in my digital readout. All right, we're at 1 inch 560 thousandths, 1.560. That'll give me something to work off. And I'll take about a 200 thousandths pass here. Total depth of cut. Still an interrupted cut. Just check my diameter to make sure that we're still measuring about the same. So we're at 360. Is that 362? I'm just going to go straight to 250. All right, I still need to take about 10 more thousandths off of there, and I think we'll have it. So I'm just going to dial that in. Final pass. All right, I'm going to go down here to the bottom and just face out and get that nice and square. then down here in the bottom, I want to put a little chamfer on there again at that angle. This is going to be the bottom of a set screw, and most set screws kind of have a taper turn into the bottom. So we're just going to put that 30 degrees in there. All right, this one should do it. We're good on our diameter. I'm going to go ahead and turn all of my bolts, and then we'll come back and put them back in and thread them. All right, I think we're set up and ready to thread. I'm going to start by just touching off here. Just going to give it about 10/1000ths of an inch. I'm going to wait for a number to come down around here on the dial. And I'm just going to do a little scratch pass here to check my thread pitch. And that does look like 7. Put a little cutting oil on here. And we'll make our first pass. Cutting 7 threads per inch, and we're just single point threading these. Here we go, number 2. Number 3. That's number 4. As you go deeper and deeper on these passes, you take lighter passes, and the reason is that it's not the depth of cut that's different, it's the width of the cut. It's the width of that face that you're cutting. So every time you go in, that face that you're cutting gets a little bit wider, and you kind of have to compensate by taking a little bit lighter depth of cut to compensate for the added width of cut. I started out with about a 20/1000 down, or I started out with about a 20/1000 depth of cut. I went to a 15/1000, and now I'm down to a 10/1000, and I'm probably about to drop it down to a 5/1000 on this next pass. That's a 5/1000 depth of cut, but you can see it's a real wide chip. Put a little bit more oil on here. Do another 5 thou. Maybe one more pass and we're going to do a test fit. Typically when I'm cutting threads, I'll look, when I start to see that my top of that getting sharp, coming to a point, I start doing a test fit. And I basically will just turn these to fit by hand. You can get technical and measure over wires and get your depth of cut just exactly right, but I'm usually going for a fit. So let's get one of our nuts that we made and try it out. So not quite wanting to start. I didn't think it would, but I wanted to stop and check. So we'll take some more cuts here until we get a good fit. Do another 5 thou. Do another 5 and we'll check it again. In fact, I've got a fairly sharp top on that now. I think I'm just going to do a scratch pass here. We're not going to feed in at all. We're just going to just let it go down and clean up any imperfections in there. And we'll do a test fit. Not really cutting much. Cut a little bit on the front end, but nothing back there. All right, let's check it again. And that is a very, very nice fit. All right, 1 down, 3 to go. All right, I've got one of these done. I've still got 3 more bolts to make, but I'm running out of time, so I think I'm going to go ahead and wrap this video up for today. But I do want to kind of just test it all out. Of course, that nut's going to fit right in there. And then we will come across the front of this, and this will thread into that nut. And that will then, in turn, press up against this bearing over here to keep it tight. I'll put a jam nut on this side of it, just a regular nut. It doesn't have to be a big fancy one like we made. But yeah, that'll fit right up against that piece there. Allow you to put some pressure on it. And I think we have successfully made this hardware that we need. That, like I said, this is stuff that I wasn't able to go out and buy. Well, there you can kind of see it mocked up. I don't have it all bolted together yet, but that's kind of what these will do. Again, this will just put some tension on that so you can adjust these rollers where you want them. Once you get them set, you just jam nut them in place, and yeah, you got your mill set for the, and that's going to determine how close these rollers are to the top roller, and that's going to determine that gap in there and how close it presses to get the juice out of it. So that is an adjustment that they will make once they start using the mill. So anyway, like I said, I'm going to get these last 3 threaded. We'll do that off camera probably tomorrow when I get a chance to get back out here in the shop. Got a little bit more painting to do on a couple of parts. I got to get these bearings painted. There's a couple of gears and a couple of little odd pieces that I just haven't gotten to yet. I need to put the gears on the bottom rollers, and I believe that after that we're going to be ready to start putting this mill back together. So yeah, probably next video will be us putting this mill back together, at least the next video on this mill. So we are definitely getting into the short rows, and getting it where it needs to be to finish this thing up finally. Looking forward to getting this one knocked out. So with that, guys, that's a wrap. As always, thanks so much for watching. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Those thumbs up and comments are always greatly appreciated. It really helps out with the algorithms on YouTube. Big, huge thank you to those who support the site financially through Patreon, PayPal, etc. There's links for that down in the description below. If that's something you want to help out with. Really does help out a lot and allows me to take the time to shoot these videos, edit them, everything that goes along with it to bring them to you. And with that, guys, we are going to get out of here. We'll catch you on the next video. Again, as always, thanks for watching.